back to that three phenomenon of you sitting in the dark, looking in one direction and sitting still for 2 hours is relative to this proposition and this anxiety. I'm sure that you've noticed that uses of the cinema outside of cinemas tends to be far more exciting and invigorating than what we are now doing inside cinemas. The reason why I think cinema is dead, the screen is not dead, but the activity of cinema is dead. What is cinema? It's first of all, basically, bedtime stories for adults. And you know that's not good enough, and I certainly know that's good enough, because we can simply go to the bookshop and read bedtime stories for adults. Here's another example of the uses of contemporary technology. It was put together for a brand new complex of palaces, just been resurrected and refurbished outside Turin in Italy at a place called Venaria Reale. And what you're watching, in fact, is not a single screen, but in fact is 4 composite screens. So you're looking at an exploded version of a ROM. So imagine the left-hand characters are being projected on that wall, the right-hand characters are being projected on that wall, and of course the end wall, more conventionally, is facing you, and obviously the ceiling is up there. I don't know which people in the audience here speak Italian, but we'll give you just a little test of the soundtrack. But you can imagine as you watch and hopefully listen, that you'll see that all the characters have been filmed separately, individually, and then composed together.
Il lupo malavoglia, approfittando del suo nome.
Okay, notions of environmental cinema have of course been with us for some time, but the sophistication now of the equipment is getting so good that the notions of recreating a 360-degree environment are becoming very good indeed. And I've been asking questions here in Moscow about the whole notion of what is becoming very fashionable now in Western Europe is the significance of the museum or the gallery for furthering the vocabulary of cinematic practice. It doesn't, as far as I can understand, be particularly hot here, but there is a way that huge numbers of young people are now very determined to become associated with what I suppose rather pompously we can call museumology. And what is happening is all sorts of art galleries and museums and national collections are beginning to ask filmmakers and video practitioners and people with their handles on the tools of the new technologies to be able to come into their particular world and do some pretty extraordinary things. To be in a good position to be able to collaborate with these people because they seem to have a lot of money and their eyes are opening all the doors and windows on the possibility, let me repeat that phrase again, of making cinema outside of cinema. 2006 saw the 400th birthday of probably the most famous Dutch painter ever, Rembrandt. And Rembrandt painted a very famous painting called The Night Watch. Reckoned to be one of the very first paintings, certainly the beginning of the 17th century, that introduced the notion of movement into painting. My 2 greatest interests would be painting and cinema. And I have long wished to see if they could communicate better one with the other. Rembrandt is known as a master manipulator of light. And what is cinema? Cinema is no more than the manipulation of artificial light. So I was invited into the major National Museum of Holland in Amsterdam, called the Rijksmuseum, where they hang this very famous Dutch painting, to do what Rembrandt was doing in 1642 with a light that people like me could do in the year 2008, and let me show you what we did. There have been nearly 8,000 years of painting and only 113 years of cinema. There's no comparison at all in terms of time. But what many thousands, tens of thousands of painters have been doing in those 8,000 years, cinema is now simply repeating. But I've always been worried and disquieted by the idea that cinema does not really talk to painting, and painters don't really talk to cinema makers. It's all about the business of seeing and looking, a very complicated, very exciting and fascinating interface about what we really do with the interaction of our brains and our eyes. What you watched just now, in fact, was projections on the real original painting by Rembrandt of the Night Watch. It wasn't on a clone, it wasn't on a facsimile, it wasn't on a reproduction, it was the real painting. A lot of people came to see what we did in the Rice Museum, certainly a lot of directors of international museums. And in 2 days' time, I'm in Milan projecting on Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper. Paintings in the next 3 or 4 years we're going to tackle. We are going to tackle a Jackson Pollock in the Museum of Modern Art, New York, New York, New York,